March 8, 2018. That was the moment a single policy decision in Washington quietly put billions of dollars of Honda's business model at risk. Because when the US announced aggressive tariffs on imported vehicles and parts, it wasn't just political noise.
Congratulations, Mr. President.
Within weeks of taking office, Trump accused the European Union, China, Canada, and Mexico of trade imbalances that hurt American manufacturers. He imposed 25% tariffs on most imports from Canada and Mexico and 10% on imports from China.
Many countries have taken advantage of us, the likes of which nobody even thought was possible for many decades. And, that has to stop.
For Honda, it was a direct threat to its profit engine.
Honda, the brand long praised for reliability and balance, is now warning of a dramatic fall in profits. Its latest projections show a collapse nearing 60%, a blow strong enough to rattle supply chains from Detroit to Tokyo.
At the time, nearly 40% of the vehicles Honda sold in the United States were built outside the country, mainly in Mexico and Canada. That was fine when borders were open and trade was cheap. But with potential tariffs climbing as high as 25% per vehicle, every imported Civic, CR-V, and HR-V suddenly became a liability. Overnight, Honda's carefully optimized global supply chain started to look fragile. And here's the uncomfortable truth. The company that once mastered efficiency better than almost any automaker in history was now exposed to a system it could no longer control. This is the story of how Honda, one of the most disciplined manufacturers in the world, was forced into a strategic rethink, not because of competition, not because of technology, but because politics rewrote the math. Honda doesn't need a dramatic origin story. What matters is this. By the early 1980s, Honda had already made a decision that would define its future: build cars in America for Americans. In 1982, Honda opened its first U.S. auto plant in Marysville, Ohio, becoming the first Japanese automaker to manufacture cars in the United States. It was a strategic one. The US market was too big, too profitable, and too politically sensitive to rely on imports alone. Fast forward to today, and the scale is staggering. The United States is Honda's single largest market in the world, accounting for roughly 40% of its global vehicle sales. In recent years, that's been around 1.3 to 1.4 million vehicles annually. To support that demand, Honda built a manufacturing empire across the Midwest and the South, a factory in Ohio for Accord, Acura Integra engines, and now EV infrastructure, a factory in Indiana for Civic hatchback CR-V variants, and yet another factory in Alabama for Pilot, Passport, Ridgeline, Odyssey, plus massive operations in Canada and Mexico supplying the US market. On paper, it looked balanced, efficient, global. But here's the part most people miss. Even with all those US plants, a huge portion of Honda's supply chain still depended on cross-border trade. Engines from one country, transmissions from another, final assembly somewhere else. It worked beautifully, as long as trade was cheap. And for decades it was. Mexico, in particular, became a cost-efficiency powerhouse. Lower labor costs, modern plants, proximity to the US market. It was the perfect manufacturing shortcut. Honda invested heavily there, producing Civics, HR-Vs, and key components for North America. Which brings us back to the problem. When tariffs enter the picture, efficiency turns into exposure. A 25% tariff doesn't just eat margin, it destroys pricing strategy. It forces either price hikes, profit losses, or structural change. And for Honda, whose brand is built on value, reliability, and affordability, passing costs on to consumers is dangerous. This is the moment the company realized something critical. Honda wasn't just a car company anymore. It was now a political risk company. And that's where the real story begins. By the time tariffs became real policy and not just political theater, Honda was already running scenarios. And the numbers were ugly. A 25% tariff on imported vehicles or components doesn't just dent profits. It can wipe out an entire model's margin. For mass-market cars like the Civic and CR-V, where competition is brutal and pricing is tight, there's almost no room to absorb that kind of cost. So Honda did what disciplined manufacturers always do when the rules change. They moved first, quietly. One of the earliest strategies was something most consumers never hear about: front-loading. In simple terms, Honda accelerated imports before tariffs took effect, flooding the US with vehicles and parts while trade was still cheap. Dealers got inventory, warehouses filled, supply chains were buffered. On the surface, it looked like business as usual. Behind the scenes, it was a defensive maneuver. Because once tariffs hit, every car crossing the border would cost more. Every engine, every transmission, every electronic module. And Honda knew the clock was ticking. At the same time, engineers and logistics teams were given a new mandate: re-engineer the product to minimize exposure. That meant reducing imported components, localizing more parts production, simplifying trims to reduce cost variance, reworking supply routes to avoid tariff-heavy borders. This is where it gets strategic. Honda didn't just ask, "How do we make this car?" They started asking, "Where is every single dollar of this car exposed?" And nowhere was that question more sensitive than with the Civic. The Civic is not just a model, it's a pillar, a volume machine, a gateway car. For decades, it's been one of the best-selling vehicles in America. But for years, a large portion of Civic production came from Mexico. Why? Cost efficiency, labor, logistics, scale. But tariffs flipped that logic. Suddenly, Mexico wasn't cheap anymore. As you'd expect, Honda began shifting production, expanding U.S. capacity, and signaling future investment in American plants, particularly in Ohio and Indiana. Publicly, the language was careful, neutral, corporate. But internally, the direction was clear: build where you sell, or pay the price. At the same time, Honda faced another brutal reality. Moving production is not a switch. It's a multi-year, multi-billion-dollar commitment. New tooling, new training, new supplier contracts, new logistics flows. You don't do it unless you're convinced the old system is broken. And Honda was becoming convinced. Add to that rising labor costs in North America, global supply chain disruptions, semiconductor shortages, and now political risk, and suddenly the world's most reliable manufacturing machine was operating in fog. This is the part most headlines missed. Honda wasn't just reacting to tariffs. It was re-architecting its entire North American strategy. And while competitors were still arguing about policy, Honda was already running numbers on a future where borders are expensive, politics is unpredictable, and efficiency alone is no longer enough. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Because while Honda was tightening operations, cutting exposure, and reshuffling production, it was also investing heavily in something that looked completely unrelated: concept cars, electric platforms, future factories. Which raises the real question: was Honda retreating or repositioning? Because what happened next wasn't defensive, it was strategic. By 2022, Honda had made something clear to investors, without ever saying it bluntly. The old playbook was no longer enough. For decades, Honda dominated by doing three things better than almost anyone: building reliable cars, running hyper-efficient factories, and scaling globally with surgical precision. But the world it mastered doesn't exist anymore. Now it's facing trade volatility, political risk, electrification pressure, supply chain fragility, and a consumer market that's changing faster than factories can. So Honda made a decision that signals long-term commitment. It began pouring tens of billions of dollars into North American reinvention. In 2022, Honda and LG Energy Solution announced a $4.4 billion joint venture battery plant in Ohio, expected to create over 2,000 jobs and supply EV batteries for Honda and Acura vehicles in the US. That number matters, because battery plants don't get built unless you're betting on decades, not quarters. Honda committed $3.5 billion more to retool its US manufacturing operations for EV production, including upgrades in Ohio, Indiana, and Canada. This is not a safe bet, it's a necessary one. And that's what makes this story powerful, because what you're watching with Honda is not decline. It's controlled transformation under pressure. Not because they wanted to, because the world forced them to. And that's the real takeaway for your audience. This isn't just about Honda. It's about what happens when global companies collide with political reality, when efficiency meets nationalism, when free trade meets tariffs, when engineering meets geopolitics. Honda didn't move production because it wanted to. It moved because the rules changed. And the companies that survive the next decade won't be the loudest. They'll be the ones that rebuild before they're forced to.